back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have everybody here on this Thursday, January 4th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, this is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, that being said, let's get right into what we are going to talk about. So, we're going to start off the show. I know I said I was going to touch upon it, during the week, and that's talking about Panthers owner David Tepper being fined for throwing a drink on a Jacksonville Jaguars fan at the game this past week. So I wanted to talk about that just because the Panthers, they've had a rough season. So I wanted to talk about that on one of the shows this week. In the second part of the show, we're going to take a look at a couple of things. We're going to look at potential playoff matchups as well, and also we're going to look at the second part of the show. We're going to look at the dark horse playoff teams. What teams are not necessarily the favorites, of course, but what teams are going to be the teams that you don't want to face in the playoffs, and that could make a run to the Super Bowl. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the potential playoff matchups in both the NFC and the AFC. And then to conclude the show, we'll look at the Pro Bowl rosters because those came out yesterday, and I know there's some people that got snubbed, so we'll get into all that, and that'll basically be it. And yeah, there's no Thursday night game, so gotta find some other things to talk about. So so that is that's the rundown for the show today. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about Panthers owner David Tepper. So yeah, he was fined. The exact amount, because I was looking into it more last night. So he was fined $300,000 for throwing a drink at Jaguars fans. Now, again, I don't know what was said, to him that he decided to do that. But yeah, I mean, the Panthers, they had a rough game on Sunday. They got shut out 26 to nothing. To the Jaguars, and this is coming off of a week where you were going up against a bad defense, but still, I mean, the way the Panthers' offense has struggled to score points this year, you'll take anything, and you put up 30 the previous week, and then you get shut out 26 to nothing to the Jaguars, and there was a video, and it shows him from a suite throwing a drink at Jaguar fans. It was announced by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network that the NFL fined him $300,000 for his unacceptable conduct during the game. All NFL personnel are expected to conduct themselves at all times in ways that respect our fans and favorably reflect on their team and the NFL. That was what the statement that the NFL said. So Tepper released his own statement telling NFL Network, "I am deeply passionate about this team and regret my behavior on Sunday. I should have let the NFL stadium security handle any issues that arose. I respect the NFL's code of conduct and accept the league's discipline for my behavior." But yeah, I mean, shouldn't do that. But at the same time, yeah, it's also out of frustration too, because it's been a rough season. Yeah, things have not gone right for the Panthers. He took over. I think he took over in 2018, I believe. I had the record since he took over. And actually, Panthers fans are have a petition to get him removed as owner. And I mean, I don't think it's not going to happen, but yeah, it's been rough. So yes, so since he took over, because I was looking at an article that had the record since he's taken over. So the Panthers are 2-14, and they are 31-67 since Tepper bought the team in 2018, failing to make the playoffs in each of his 6 seasons. Yeah, not good, not good. And listen, the Panthers, they finished 7-10 last year, and they went backwards. They got even worse. And this is coming off of, listen, you get the number 1 overall pick. You give up a hefty price for it. You trade DJ Moore, and he wanted Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. He does not regret the decision, but yeah, it's not looking good right now. It's not looking good right now. Also on top of that, trading Christian McCaffrey as well to the 49ers. I mean, I don't know what they would have done when it comes to the number 1 overall pick. Like, if it wasn't DJ Moore, they would have included. But you think Bryce Young could have used a Christian McCaffrey and a DJ Moore? I think that would have helped, because they go out and you sign Miles Sanders to a big contract, and that was a disaster. He has not been good this year. Chuba Hubbard's passed him in the depth chart. He's been running the ball more effectively. I mean, again, not really saying that much, but still, and you sign Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Hayden Hurst. I mean, I did say, I was like, at least you got some veterans in there that could, help him out, but it just hasn't been good. He could definitely have used a Christian McCaffrey and a DJ Moore. But the Panthers, they have a lot of issues. I think, you got to give Bryce Young another year, see if you really have something there. But yeah, it's not looking good. And for Tepper, yeah, he was the guy that said, this is who I want. This is the quarterback that I want. And, you look at the seasons that CJ Stroud is having compared to Bryce Young, it's not comparable. CJ Stroud is most likely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And Bryce Young, yeah, I mean, it's been a rough go. It's been a rough go. But like I said, I think obviously he's going to get another year. But if next year's not the year, then you really got a problem on your hands. Because on the season, almost 2,800 yards passing, 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. You know what? Those are Daniel Jones numbers, from a couple of years ago. And he's got a 73.7 quarterback rating. Yeah, it's been a rough go. And then Miles Sanders, you look at the season he's had, 414 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Does he have a receiving touchdown? No, he does not. So yeah, he only has 1 touchdown on the season. And yeah, your leading receiver is Adam Thielen, 1,000 yards this season. But, Adam Thielen, listen, Adam Thielen's been productive for them, but, you gotta get more weapons in there. But yeah, it's been a rough go. But also the other thing too with the petition. So I was looking into that because it talked about if Tepper were to be removed, which is I don't think is happening, of course, but yeah, it was just an article that said, can the NFL remove Tepper as the owner of the Panthers. But yeah, you'd have to get like a certain amount of votes to get him out. Basically, they're just saying that Tepper's unfit for Carolina. But yeah, I mean, it's been a rough go since he's taken over. Yeah, on the petition, people are saying, yeah, he's unfit for Carolina. This organization is a laughing stock of the NFL. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to get a certain amount of votes. 24 members would have to vote, out of the 32, to vote in favor of a change in ownership. So, it's not going to happen. But it's like I said, I mean, it's been a rough go, and and the funny thing is, because the NFC South was so weak coming into this year, I was like, what, the Panthers, they had a good defense last year. Maybe they could be the team that, takes the NFC South. I don't know, maybe, get the number 1 overall pick. You draft Bryce Young, but yeah, they didn't even come close. Now, I didn't end up saying like they were definitely going to win the NFC South. I didn't make that prediction, but that was like what I was kind of leaning towards because, I mean, like you look at everybody else, it's close, but then the season played out and the Panthers were by far the worst team this year. So thankfully I didn't like place any wagers, anything like that, but that was like, because I don't know, I mean, good defense, I mean, but from last year, but it's just, no, they've been a really bad team. But again, that starts with ownership and works its way down, because you're recycling head coaches. I mean, you're going from, Ron Rivera, right? I'm still with them back when he first started. Then you have, now I just had his name in my head. Now, Matt Rule. Then you bring in Matt Rule. That doesn't work out. Frank Reich. That doesn't work out. Steve Wilkes. They played better with him as the coach, but then they, let him go. Frank Reich is gone. Am I missing anybody in between? I think that's it, right? I think, yeah. I think I don't know if I'm missing another head coach in there, but yeah, it just hasn't worked out. In the quarterback situation, you're going from Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield. You did bring Cam Newton back for a second. It just yeah. And now Bryce Young. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him? So it's I mean, again, I don't know what else to say. It hasn't been a good stretch for Carolina in the David Tepper era. And now the Bears have the first pick this year. They have your pick. And the Bears could do a lot of different things. They're in good shape. It depends on now what they do at the quarterback position. If they stick with Fields, because they could take that pick and say, all right, we'll trade it for a bunch of assets. Make the team even better. I mean, they go and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. to go along with DJ Moore. I mean, the Bears are building something there. Now, if they're going to be able to build off of this season, we'll see. But they're heading in the right direction. The Panthers, though, yeah, it's not good. And again, the funny thing is, one of their 2 wins came against C.J. Stroud, which is weird to think about. But yeah, it's again, it hasn't been a good run for the Panthers. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. Again, let me know what you guys think about the Panthers situation and the situation with their owner being fined. When we come back from our first break of the show, we're going to talk about the main topic is some of these dark horse teams going into the playoffs. My thoughts on them. So there's a couple of them, and I'm sure you guys probably know what they are. But yeah, so that's what we'll discuss when we come back. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the dark horse playoff teams going into this postseason. And there's a couple of them. And I'm sure, most people know what those teams are. So, there are two AFC teams. And then there's one NFC team that I wanted to talk about. So, we'll go into the AFC first. So, first of all, one of them hasn't cemented a playoff spot. The other has. So we'll get into the one that had. Well, actually, there's a few of them. If they both get in. So 2 of the 3 haven't cemented a spot. One of them has. So the one that has is the Browns. I just feel like the way the AFC is right now, outside of the Ravens, I feel like the Browns could beat anybody. I mean, the Browns could beat the Ravens too. They proved that, this year. Now with Joe Flacco at quarterback, it's going to be a little different because they played him with DTR, and that was they lost. I think they lost 28-3 earlier in the season, and then obviously they played that crazy game. Browns came back, and Dustin Hopkins kicked the game-winning field goal. That was in Baltimore. But that was a game that the Ravens beat themselves. Lamar Jackson threw a pick 6 in the game. But the Browns have really been playing well with Joe Flacco. And, the offensive line's banged up. Obviously, the running back situation, Nick Chubb getting hurt earlier in the season. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt have done a nice job. They really have done a nice job. But, the quarterback situation, it's been a different quarterback, They've gone through four quarterbacks. Now 5. Well, because, they're just having them start the final week of the regular season, and that's Jeff Driscoll. So he's going to be starting for the Browns on Sunday. But, listen, the way Flacco's been playing, again, the turnovers is, again, I constantly keep saying it, but that's the one thing that worries me when when we're talking about the playoffs. Is Flacco throwing the interceptions? Because the pick 6 he threw to Jermaine Johnson, he double pump faked, he still threw it, got tipped up in the air. Johnson picked it off and ran it, back for a touchdown. It's things like that you worry about a little bit. But, they got a good defense. And, listen, Flacco, outside of the turnovers, has been playing really well. So I think with that, combined with their defense, too, because their defense is one of the better defenses in the NFL, and you got, one of the best defensive players in the league in Myles Garrett. I think they could beat Jacksonville. I think they could go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. The Dolphins, with them being banged up, they could beat them. They already proved they could beat the Ravens. I feel I'm confident in this team that they can make a deep playoff run. Now, are they going to do that? Well, it remains to be seen. But right now, we'll get into the potential playoff matchups for the first round, in the next segment. So I don't want to talk about it right now. But, right now they're lined up to play the Jaguars. And I feel like they could beat them. They already have in Cleveland. And I feel like they could do it again. So there's them. And then you got the other teams that aren't, they haven't clinched a spot yet, but I feel like if they do, I think they're going to be a tough out as well. The Bills, with them being a lower seed, they could be a 2 seed if they win on Sunday. So, it's possible that, I'm not really going to, well, if they're the 6th seed, I'll consider them a dark horse. But if they're a top seed, I don't know if you really want to call them a dark horse because they're, they'd be a top 3 seed in the conference. But if they're the 6th seed, yeah, they're going to be playing against the Chiefs to start the first round, if that's the case. So, we'll see what happens there. If that does end up happening. The Texans are another team. That was the other team I wanted to talk about. For me, I feel like, I mean, they would end up going up against the Dolphins. Either them or the Colts is going to end up playing the Dolphins, and that's going to be a tough game. But again, the Dolphins are banged up. It would be two different, obviously two different styles of play if they, either the Colts or the Texans get in. Because the Texans it's gonna be all on C.J. Stroud to try to, win. The Colts, they got, Gardner Minshew's played well, but you also got the running game. You rely more on, I would say, with Jonathan Taylor. Devin Singletary actually ran the ball decently for the Texans, but Texans are going to be throwing it with Stroud. And the Texans can put up a lot of points. So I feel like that they could maybe, make some noise if they were able to get past the first round possibly. Just because, with Stroud in that offense being able to put up points, Nico Collins being back is huge. I think the Browns could go. I think the Browns would be the team that goes the furthest out of the teams that I just mentioned. But yeah, I mean, with C.J. Stroud in that offense, they could definitely be a dangerous team just because, like I said, they could put up points, in bunches. They've shown that in several games this year. So, but yeah, those are the teams right there. Those wild card teams can definitely make some noise. In the AFC. And then in the NFC, I think it's the Rams. Ever since Kyron Williams has come back, I mean, they've just been a different team. He came back in Week 12. They put up 37 points. Week 13, 36. They had that overtime loss against the Ravens. They put up 31. They could have won that game. 28 against the Commanders, 30 against the Saints, 26 against the Giants, and Kyron Williams had a good game there. What were his stats in that game, actually? 20 for 87, but he had 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's been a monster ever since he's come back. Matthew Stafford has played well. Stafford on the season has 24 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. The thing that does worry me with them is their defense. It's not like it was, during the Super Bowl run. You still got Aaron Donald there, but it's not the same defense. You don't have Von Miller, no Jalen Ramsey. It's not as loaded. So, that's a little bit of a concern because, when you're going up against these better teams, with these top offense, with some of these better offenses, it's going to be a problem. But the Rams have an offense that they could, keep up with, like the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys destroyed them earlier in the season. The 49ers, they've had problems, playing in San Francisco in the past. And they're going there this week. We're actually going to be seeing Carson Wentz play this week because the Rams are basically locked into the 6th seed. But that's a team that could definitely make some noise as well. Because, again, if they played the Cowboys again, they're a different team than they were when they played the Cowboys. Because I don't think Kyron Williams played in that game. That was week... What was that? That was week 8? Yeah, so 43-20 was the final score. Yeah, I mean, you had Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson running the football. Stafford got hurt in the game. Cooper Kupp was just coming back. Darrell Henderson was their leading receiver. They were a different team. Back then. Now it would be a different matchup if they were to play again. I mean, if they were to advance, odds are they'd be playing the 49ers in the second round, which, yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough. Because, again, that's a place that they, haven't really had success playing at in recent years. But, again, Kyron Williams running the football effectively. Cooper Kupp is back. And, obviously, we know what Puka Nacua has been doing, in his rookie season. He's been great for them. They're going to be a tough out. They are going to be a tough out. And, in the first round, and we'll talk about it, of course, right now it seems like they are going to be playing the Lions, which I cannot wait for. to see the two quarterbacks going against their former teams. I mean, that would be a lot of fun if we're able to get that, which odds are we probably are, but we'll see. For the Packers, that could, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they might be one and done if they were able to make it. Same thing with like the Seahawks if they get in. I'd rather see the Packers get in, see what that young team can do. They'd be going up against the Cowboys. So we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because this is what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so I think the Rams on the NFC side, that's a team that could be a dark horse. And then in the AFC, I did talk about a few teams, but the Browns was like that the top team when it comes to like the dark horses. With the Bills, I mean, I don't know if they might not even make the playoffs altogether. They could be they could be a 2 seed. It all depends. I mean, you could see the Steelers make it. You could see either the Colts or the Texans. I mean, the AFC South isn't even locked up yet, so we don't even. It's just this final week is going to be crazy, and we're going to preview, of course, all the games tomorrow. We'll do our picks. That'll be tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be a wild finish to the regular season. But let me know what you guys think. What team do you think is of the teams in the wild card round or the wild card teams? What wild card team do you think is like has the best chance to make a deep playoff run? Because I think there's a couple of them at least. I mean, I know I named more than a couple, but just let me know what you guys think about that. So before we go into our second break of the show, once again, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about the potential playoff matchups. I know I kind of touched upon them a little bit, within the second segment here. But we'll go into more detail with that. I'll give you my thoughts on what could potentially happen. Obviously, it's there's some playoff spots that aren't official yet, so things are going to change. Once we get like the full-on bracket, after this week, it's going to be different. So that is what we will get into when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the potential playoff matchups, and what it could end up being. Even though we got a week left in the regular season, things can change. So let's we'll discuss it. So I just wanted to fix the segment here. To center it. So I have the what the current playoff picture is like. So we'll start off with the NFC. So this is what you got right now. If the playoffs were to start today, even though we got one more week left. So obviously, the Niners are the 1 seed. That's cut off. But So you'd have the Cowboys taking on the Packers, and then you'd have the Lions taking on the Rams. And then you would also have, just to, show it, the Eagles and the Bucs. Now, we saw at least one of these matchups this year, and that was the Buccaneers and the Eagles early on in the season, and that was back in, I think it was week 3? I think it was week 3. Well, let's just take a look really quickly. It was week 3. Yeah, it was week 3. The Eagles won 25-11. And, I mean, the way the Eagles have been playing lately, I mean, I feel like it's anybody's game. But you know what? I feel like the Eagles would win, but it's hard to, it's hard to determine that right now, the way they've been playing. But, yeah, so you got them and the Bucs. Lions and the Rams is the one that I'm most excited for, if that ends up happening, just because, again, you're going to see Stafford, possibly playing his former team. Same thing with Jared Goff as well. I'm really hoping that we end up getting that matchup. Now, we got it from a couple years ago, and I talked about this, I think, yesterday, or during the week, sometime during the week. They played back in 2021, and it was, back when the Lions weren't good. And, the Rams, they were one of the better teams in the NFL. It was, actually, let's see, what was the score of that game? Let's take a look at that. But yeah, I mean, that was, oh yeah, because I did say, I'm like, well, Goff didn't really make his return home. I mean, they were playing he only played in SoFi Stadium for 1 year, and it was with no fans. It was with no fans because that was the COVID year. But yeah, they ended up playing. So the final score of that game was 28-19. The Rams improved to 6-1 on the season, and the Lions dropped to 0-7. So actually, we'll look at the box score of the game. So Jared Goff went 22 of 36 for 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jamal Williams was their leading rusher. The leading receiver was actually Khalif Raymond. He had 6 receptions for 115 yards. DeAndre Swift had 8 for 96 and a touchdown. I remember I had him on my fantasy team that year, so I was happy about that. Stafford went 28 of 41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Darrell Henderson was their leading rusher. He only had 45 yards rushing. Cooper Kupp had 10 receptions for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, the Rams, that was when they were, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they could still be that if they can make a deep playoff run. This is where this matchup here, you could see the Rams winning the game. Because the Lions, their defense is, it's got some holes in it, of course. It struggled at points during the season. There are times where they could definitely turn it on. But I feel like for them, it's going to be tough for them to stop this Rams offense if they have to go up against them. So I don't know. I might take the Rams in an upset if this ends up being the matchup, which it most likely is. But then you also have to look on the other side. You got the Lions offense going up against the Rams defense, and listen, Aaron Donald can wreck a game. But you know what? The Rams offense, the Lions, I think could move the ball on them. They got a lot of playmakers on their offense as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end. The dual threat at running back. That would be this would be an interesting matchup, and I really hope that we get that. But it looks like that's going to be the case. All right, the 2 and the 7, the Packers and the Cowboys. That could definitely change because if the Packers lose, they're probably not making it. Now, obviously, it's going to be a little different this time around because, listen, the Packers and the Cowboys have played in the playoffs a couple times. In the playoffs, in the last, 10 years. Obviously, the first game was back in, the 2014-2015 season. You had the Dez caught it game, of course. Where the referees reversed the call, and Des Bryant in fact didn't catch the ball, and the Packers ended up winning. But people are like, "Oh, Des caught it." Okay, I got you, but do people not understand that there were 3.5 minutes left in the game? Aaron Rodgers could have went right down the field and scored again, and then that would have been it. I don't understand why it's what was the game over? Was there 10 seconds left in the game? No, there was like 3.5 minutes left. Nick Urillo said Dez dropped it. Yeah, I agree 100%. No, I mean, did he catch it? Yeah, but do I care? No, because it was nice to see, the Cowboys upset after they reversed the call, and that was it was a fun time, and I thought the Packers were gonna maybe get to the Super Bowl, but we know what happened the following week. And then obviously you had the Jared Cook game and the Mason Crosby field goal to win that. That was in the divisional round, Dak Prescott's rookie season. So yeah, but it's different now because you got a different quarterback and you got a young team, which you got to be excited as a Packers fan because you look at their skill position players. Obviously Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are kind of like the veterans, on the offensive side of the ball. But, you got all these young guys like Jaden Reed and Bo Melton. I don't even know who that is. And he was making plays the other night. Malik Heath, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, hopefully he comes back. And, of course, Jordan Love, how he's been playing. The Packers have a lot to be excited about, going forward. And it's been kind of a roller coaster of a season. They get off to a decent start, then Jordan Love struggles, then they're on a hot streak, and then, he struggles again. Well, he doesn't. Well, not him struggling, but the Packers as a team, losing the tough game against the Giants, and then of course, Baker Mayfield has that perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field, so it's kind of been a defense problem, and then they almost choked away the game against the Panthers. It's been a roller coaster of a season, and now you're playing against a divisional opponent that basically has nothing to play for after blowing out the Vikings, and this happened last year and they lost. And the Bears have been playing better. The Packers blew them out the first week of the regular season. It's a different team now, so we'll see what happens. But if this ends up being the matchup, you got to favor the Cowboys just because they've been playing. They've been on a different team at home. And the Packers' defense, is not good. But, the Packers are playing with house money. Nobody expected them to, get to the playoffs if they do, in fact, get there. So, we'll see what happens if this ends up being the matchup. But, yeah, the Cowboys, definitely will have flashbacks to, those previous 2 playoff losses. But what will be good for them is that it won't be Aaron Rodgers this time. It's going to be Jordan Love making his first playoff start. But hey, maybe he lights him up. We'll see. All right, so let's get into the AFC because I've kind of been just rambling on here. So yeah, right now at the moment you got the Dolphins will be playing the Colts, and then you got the Bills playing the Chiefs, and then in the other playoff matchup, if I can scroll, all right, for some reason it's not letting me. All right, there we go. So then it would also be the Jaguars and the Browns. I could definitely see the Browns, defeating the Jaguars again. Because the Jags have been struggling for a while now. Injuries. with their quarterback, wide receiver. I could definitely see that. And again, the way the Browns have been playing. I don't see why they can't upset Jacksonville again. The Bills, listen, they kind of, lucked out with Kadarius Toney lining up off sides because they could have very easily lost that game, but they lucked out. That is going to be, if it's Mahomes Allen first round, sign me up for that because every time they play each other, there's always drama at the end. For the most part, so right now I would lean towards the Bills just because. Listen, the Chiefs did win on Sunday, but again, I'm still not impressed with what. But again, the Bills, they could very easily, lay a dud in the playoffs too. I mean, Josh Allen turns the ball over. It's just, I don't know. But I would lean towards the Bills, though. Having said that, both these teams have their flaws. Let's just look at it like that. But again, sign me up for another Allen Mahomes playoff matchup. I would take that. It'd be another classic. Dolphins Colts. I mean, I would lean towards the Dolphins, but again, the Dolphins, they're banged up right now. So whether it's the Colts, whether it's the Texans, I mean, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough if the Dolphins are still banged up, because obviously your receivers aren't healthy. Tyreek Hill is still dealing with the ankle. Actually, another thing, scary situation yesterday. So Tyreek Hill's house caught on fire. Seems like everybody was okay, but yeah, he had to leave practice. And in the video, you see he's in a again. Thankfully, everybody's okay, but you saw he was in a walking boot. So yeah, I mean the ankle injury is still affecting him, but yeah, scary situation yesterday with that. But yeah, he was in a walking boot. Waddle missed the game against the Ravens. I mean, obviously, on defense, Xavier Howard's hurt. Bradley Chubb, unfortunately, tearing his ACL late in the game against the Ravens. It's the Dolphins are dealing with a lot right now. Mostert was out. It's whoever they play in the first round, it's going to be tough, but they are going to be at home. So, and also Tua got hurt as well. But it's not a shoulder injury, I believe, is non-throwing shoulder, so he should be fine. But it's Dolphins. Have been struggling a bit. So and they got some injuries. So whoever they play, I mean, whether it's the Colts who are going to be running the football, Gardner Minshew has been playing decent this year, like I said, or you're getting C.J. Stroud, who could put up a lot of points. It's going to be a tough first-round matchup, regardless, for the Dolphins. But I think they could still win. They should win. But if they got bounced out in the first round, that would be a really disappointing end to their season. And Nick also said, if there's any year where Allen can defeat Mahomes, it's got to be this year. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be this year because the Chiefs are, not the powerhouse they have been. Now, their defense, probably the best that it's ever been in the Mahomes era. But, listen, the offense right now, Travis Kelce doesn't look like, the Travis Kelce we're accustomed to seeing. I think what you got to worry about is really their running backs. Isaiah Pacheco has been running the football effectively this year when he's healthy. Rashee Rice actually has started to produce in recent weeks. Mahomes has found some comfort throwing to him, at least, because his other receivers, I mean, Valdez-Scantling and him dropping the ball. Kadarius Toney. I mean, Kadarius Toney's missed a couple games with injuries, so but it's just been Sky Moore's on IR. Yeah, it's the Chiefs. They got to get some wide receivers in there next year, because this is not cutting it. But yeah, I mean, these are the potential playoff matchups right here. So let me know what you guys think about them. Which matchup are you most excited for? Because we got some good ones if these end up being the matchups. So so that's pretty much it when talking about this. We're gonna take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk about the Pro Bowl rosters that were announced. So I'll get into that. Who got snubbed. And that'll be it for the show when we come back. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're just going to take a look at the Pro Bowl rosters that were announced. I'll go through them, and then we'll talk about who got snubbed, because there were a few players that did. So we'll start off with the NFC. So the quarterbacks, you got Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, and Matthew Stafford. Can't really disagree with those choices. Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott have been MVP candidates for a while. Obviously, that things have changed with the MVP conversation. I mean, it changes from week to week. No surprise there. And then Matthew Stafford, of course, has really, been playing better as of late. The Rams have been one of the hotter teams in the NFL. Since, again, Kyren Williams coming back, he's looked like they've looked like a different team. And, obviously Stafford and his receivers have really picked it up as well. Those are the quarterbacks. With the wide receivers, you got A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, and Puka Nacua. If Nick is still in the chat, this is a debate that I did not take any part in because I thought there was really no point. There was a big argument over in our sports chat about CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. And I don't know. For me, I was keeping up with it. But at the same time, I was just like, what is the point of this debate that we're having? I mean, you got two great receivers, but there was some bias in the debate. I would say that. But listen, CeeDee Lamb has been great this year. There's no question about it. He deserves to be there. Oh, and Puka Nacua, of course. I mean, it has been unbelievable for them, for the Rams this year. Mike Evans with Baker Mayfield, a bounce back year for him because he only had 3 touchdowns last year, I believe. So it was actually no, he did not have 3 touchdowns. He had more than that because there was that game against the Panthers. He had 3. Yeah, no, but he had single digit touchdowns at least. But I mean, with Baker Mayfield, he's been really good. A.J. Brown, of course, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Of course, there's been some rough moments this year. He's voiced his displeasure with not getting the ball. To Jalen Hurts on the sidelines. But yeah, so those are your NFC wide receivers. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, of course, who should be the MVP, but it looks like it's not going to happen. But again, no disrespect to if it ends up being Lamar Jackson. But again, should be the year a non-quarterback gets the MVP. So you got him, DeAndre Swift, who's played well for the Eagles. Kyren Williams, of course. I mean, we've talked about him a bunch of times with the Rams. Well deserved for those guys. The tight ends, you got George Kittle and Sam Laporta. I mean, Sam Laporta has had a great rookie season for the Lions. George Kittle, of course, one of the best tight ends in the NFL with the 49ers. Tackles, Lane Johnson of the Eagles, Penei Sewell of the Lions, Trent Williams of the 49ers. Can't say I'm surprised by that either. Guards, you got Landon Dickerson of the Eagles, Chris Lindstrom of the Falcons, and Zach Martin of the Cowboys. A lot of Philadelphia Eagles made the Pro Bowl. And, it'd be nice if the Giants were to have an offensive line like the Eagles, where you got three Pro Bowlers. You got Jason Kelce and Frank Ragnow. So Jason Kelce, obviously, of the Eagles, and Frank Ragnow of the Lions. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Nick Bosa of the 49ers, Aiden Hutchinson of the Lions, Montez Sweat of the Bears. Again, credit to the Bears for getting Montez Sweat because he's made a difference on their defense. Interior lineman, you got Aaron Donald of the Rams, Javon Hargrave of the 49ers, Dexter Lawrence of the Giants. Giants got a Pro Bowler in there. Outside linebackers, Daniil Hunter, Micah Parsons of the Cowboys, Hassan Reddick of the Eagles. Inside middle linebackers, Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner, no surprise there. Cornerbacks, Deron Bland, of course, all his pick sixes this year. Jalen Johnson of the Bears, Travarius Ward of the 49ers, and Devin Witherspoon of the Seahawks. Free safety, Jesse Bates of the Falcons. And then strong safeties, you got Budda Baker and Julian Love. Former Giant for the Seahawks, or of the Giant. Former Giant. I don't know why I stuttered there. But yeah, Julian Love, former Giant, now Seattle Seahawk. That's what I meant to say. Then special teams, Brian Anger of the Cowboys, Brandon Arbery of the Cowboys, Andrew DePola of the Vikings, Rashid Shaheed of the Saints, our return specialist, and then Jalen Reeves-Maben of the Lions. So that's the NFC. Nick said Giants had some snubs, Okereke and Tibbs. Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau had a good year. Is that a good year? Giants got something in him, which is great because, he was one of their top draft choices, last year. So hopefully, Giants continue to build their team up because, this year was a disappointment. Then in the AFC, yeah, this was interesting. So you had Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa. But no, I'm surprised no C.J. Stroud. I'm guessing he's a reserve. But, Mahomes is not going to play in it, right? Maybe if they don't make it to the Super Bowl. Tua's had a good year. Lamar, of course, is the lead for MVP. Wide receiver, you got Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill. No surprise there with some of the choices. Running backs, James Cook, Derrick Henry, Raheem Mostert. Derrick Henry hasn't had a Derrick Henry year. I feel like this year with running backs, it's top heavy, and also from a fantasy perspective. I was thinking about this, already thinking of draft strategy for next year. It's like you don't really know what, might have to wait on running backs, But yeah, those are the running backs there. Fullbacks, you got Alec Ingold of Miami. Tight ends, Travis Kelce, David Njoku, no surprise there. Tackles, Teron Armstead of the Dolphins, Deion Dawkins of Buffalo, Laremy Tunsil of the Texans. Guards, Joel Bitonio of the Browns, Quentin Nelson of the Colts, Joe Thuney of the Chiefs, Creed Humphrey of the Chiefs, and Tyler Linderbaum for the Ravens when it comes to the centers. Defensive ends, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson. No surprise there. Interior linemen, Chris Jones, Justin Madabuke of the Ravens, Quinnen Williams of the Jets, outside linebackers, Josh Allen of the not quarterback Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, even though he doesn't like being called that, of the Jaguars, Khalil Mack of the Chargers, T.J. Watt of the Steelers, Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith of the Ravens. Corners, you got Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Surtain, and Denzel Ward. Free safeties, Minka Fitzpatrick, Justin Simmons, and Kyle Hamilton. The strong safety. And then specialists, special teams, A.J. Cole of the Raiders, Justin Tucker of the Ravens, Ross, I can't even pronounce that name, the long snapper of the Jaguars. Marvin Mims of the Broncos, and then Miles Killebrew of the Steelers. I don't even know how to pronounce the long snapper. What is it? I can't even. All right, first name's Ross. I can't pronounce his name. I apologize for that. The amount of mispronunciations that I've had on the show, you can count on, two hands and two feet. But yeah, so Pro Bowl snubs. I know I saw DJ Moore was trending. He was one of them. I know Nick said in the chat, Okereke and Tibbs for the Giants. Yeah, C.J. Stroud not being on there. I thought, maybe he deserves to be on there, but I don't know. Let's see. Who else was a Pro Bowl snub? I guess you got to throw. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Allen. Let's see who else. Yeah, I'm just looking at on NFL Network. Well, NFL.com. Yeah, no Ayuk, no Josh Allen. Got some offensive linemen in there. Jared Goff, Travis Etienne, DJ Moore, Breece Hall. yeah, there's these Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quincy Williams of the Jets, L'Jarius Sneed, Antoine Winfield of the Bucks. Yeah, there's a decent amount of players that got snubbed. Jalen Hurts, T.J. Hawkinson. Yeah, well, Hawkinson's hurt, but I feel like he could have been a Pro Bowler. Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, there's a decent amount of players that got snubbed. But, yeah. Tony in the chat. Go Niners. I like the video. Appreciate it. Go Niners. Yeah, listen, Niners are going to be a really good team. Well, going to be a really good team. Niners are going to be tough out in the playoffs, and I hope that's the team that goes all the way. I don't know why I said they're going to be a good team. Yeah, that's some of the brain farts that I have here. I mean, I think they should go to the Super Bowl. I hope they do. I really hope they do. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it when talking about the Pro Bowl rosters. I mean, am I going to watch it? No, because it's not even a game. It's, it's flag. Well, I did watch a little bit of it last year. But it's just, I mean, it's skill challenges. It's the Pro Bowl. It's a flag football game. It's, I don't really need to, tune in for that. But the players have fun. That's good for them. But that gap between the championship games and the Super Bowl, it's I don't need the Pro Bowl, but at least it's something to talk about, because again we didn't have a game to preview. I still can't believe I just said that. I'm like, oh yeah, the Niners are going to be a good team. What am I saying? But yeah, I mean, before you know it, it will be the Pro Bowl, and then the Super Bowl, and the season's over, which is going to stink. But then, hey, we got the UFL. It's that's going to be coming up in the spring. We'll see how that goes. It's something I'll pay attention to, just because now you're combining the USFL and the XFL, so we'll see. Maybe get some more notable players in there. Because I'll be honest, when I think I talked about this, but when the XFL came back before COVID, right before the pandemic, I was really into it. Well, I shouldn't say I was really into it, but I was into it. But then when it came back again, I really I didn't pay attention to it that much. But like I said, if they could get more notable players, in it from the NFL, I'll definitely tune in for it. I mean, I'm going to tune in for it anyways, but I'm hoping we get more recognizable players, because that would make it more interesting. But I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. I thank you guys for tuning in, sticking around. Some comments in the chat. Thanks to Tony and Nick for commenting in the chat, so it's not just me, talking to myself for an hour. So we'll be back again tomorrow. Got 2 shows tomorrow. I got the baseball show first, and then we got the football show will be after that, and then we'll be into the weekend. So with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.